mate. And the weekend, a very basic question to kick things off.
It's been a different week this week, obviously, with the grounds closed. So Tuesday night was a bit of freshen up. We just did some boxing and some circuit and some touch work, so it was good. So, as I say, every week there's still a good vibe around the club, and I've got a massive challenge this week against Lauderdale. We haven't beaten them down there for 7 or 8 years, so. But we get a few boys back in this week, so just go down. As I said last week, we're craving a 4-quarter performance, which we haven't had. So that's something we're striving for this week.
One of those boys, Cole.
Cole's got his test at midday today, so if he passes that, then he'll play this week, which is exciting.
Talking about a 4-quarter performance, mate, do you feel you're close? You're obviously getting halves and bits and pieces. Is it far away?
If I knew the answer to that, I'd be pretty happy. Look, to be honest, we've only really played 2 quarters. But in general, not many teams play 4 quarters every week. So, judging on last week, we probably still are a fair way off. But as I said at the end of last week, we've got 7 more games to go. So we'll keep teaching them. We get someone like Baxter Norton's back in this week as well, and he's a good ball user. So that'll help us control the footy for a bit longer. So hopefully that goes a little bit towards us playing more consistent footy.
Anybody else, mate, of note, other than potentially Colin and Baxter, that you're getting back?
Bailey Walker will be back this week. He missed last week. He'd been pretty crook towards the back end of the week, so he missed school, so he can't missing school and then playing the weekend. So he'll come back, which helps us structurally. It frees some of the key defenders up to potentially roll forward. So, he's only 18, but he's had an exceptional year. So his likelihood to play on one of the Lauderdale key forwards. So it's good to have him back. Obviously having Baxter back, and also Cole some chance as well. So 3 handy ins.
What makes Lauderdale so tough to win at, especially if they're starting to turn their form around?
It's a fortress down there. I think it doesn't matter who goes down there. You're always in for a tough environment. The way they play suits that type of ground as well. But with Belchambers being out, we feel if we can sort of stop them at the source a little bit, because their wingers on the outside they've been really good this year. So if we can, potentially lock down on Franklin, probably stops the source a bit getting out to the runners. You give yourself some chance, but as I just said before, we've got to go down there and crave consistency over the longer periods of the game to give ourselves any chance of winning.
I thought you guys were actually quite competitive over the weekend. Were you fairly satisfied with that performance, despite coming up a little bit short?
Yeah, well, I thought it was a pretty good performance. It was, it was a pretty scrappy game because of the nature of the weather. There was a lot of stoppages. Possession counts were down for both teams, looking at the stats. So, as we always aim to do, we want to be in a position to win at the end of the game. So I think we gave ourselves a chance to do that. But Lauderdale got over the top of us there at the end, or at the start, the second quarter, I think, I can't remember what the number was, we were about -8 inside 50s, and they really capitalised when they got their chances. And we kept hanging in, grinded away, and probably that four goal margin was reflective of our second quarter, which sort of probably cost us the game there.
Were there things you took away from that game that you feel like you can really now implement and get that 4-quarter performance and potentially win against Launceston?
I think we've been doing that for about the last 3 weeks. Like, it started with the North Lonnie game, where we made a couple structural changes and a couple changes with our ball movement and what we were doing. Nothing major to what we've been doing before, but just a couple of minor tweaks which have sort of been building over those 3 weeks, which is, the way we've been getting the ball inside 50, which has let us score the last, month, where probably a month ago we're only kicking 3 or 4 goals a game. So that's up to around the 10 goal mark now at the moment, which is really pleasing. So defensively we're fine. We've been good all year defensively. So it's getting closer. But I think, like Bear just said before, no one really ever plays the full 4 quarters. There's always going to be periods where teams get the game on their terms, and it's just making sure that you can not so much limit damage, but we seem to get hurt on the scoreboard when we do. It's not a lapse really, but we let teams score in bunches, and then we're chasing tails sort of for the rest of the game to make that up, which we've proven we can do. So we've just got to eradicate those little 2 goals, 3 goals in a row that we give up, and and it gets closer.
Do you see this as a winnable game, mate, or is it a scary thing given their form lately, I suppose?
I suppose, I come up here every week, we plan to win, so we see every game as a winnable game. I'm not going to stand up there in front of the boys and tell them we're going to limit damage or we're going to put numbers behind the ball. We go full on trying to win the game of footy first and foremost. Obviously and every team's going to have those patches of 3 or 4 weeks where it doesn't go to plan or you get tested with some injuries or, that's just the nature of the competition. So, they've come off a couple of losses, so that makes them hungry and it does make them dangerous in that regards because I'm sure they don't want to drop 3 games in a row. So, they're bringing in some players as well, they're integrating some things, the Mariners coming back for them, they seem to have a few changes every week and that probably takes time as well, getting that to gel. So whether we're getting it at a good time or a bad time, we'll probably know a little bit more at 4:30 on Saturday.
Does that make it hard to plan for them because you don't know what sort of team they're going to put out there because they've made a lot of changes over the year?
Not too much. Like their game style's their game style and they're pretty consistent with that, the way they want to move the ball and enter it into their forward 50. So I don't think their game style changes insofar as personnel changing. It's just, getting used to probably tendencies of players, who's a left footer, who's a right footer, who wants the ball delivered to them in certain ways. So that probably takes a little bit of time to gel for them. So, yeah.
Sonny and Thorpe, is there a more intimidating forward duo in the competition? Or?
Yeah, there's certainly some firepower there. So, and like I said, but that starts for us with limiting supply to it. Like I said, we're not going to sit numbers back or anything like that. If we can win it at the source and have high pressure on their kicking game when they rebound out of 50, you limit their supply and make it a little bit harder. But they're tough covers, they're tough matchups. They're both proven players in this comp over years. So, but it's a good opportunity for some of our guys to play on some good players and learn as well. And but it will start up the field. If we can get our defensive stuff forward of the ball good, we'll give ourselves a chance. And just if you don't give them the supply, hopefully they can't kick them.
Changes from last week?
Obviously MD will miss. Ryan Matthews is out for the year, so with a broken collarbone. So that obviously they're our 2 most experienced players. Our best inside mid and one of our leaders in Marcus. So they're big holes to fill for us. And unfortunately, Huey Johnson, who's had a great 2 weeks as a ruckman, he's really started to emerge. He's got a university exam at 1 o'clock on Saturday. So I don't know how much he studied. If he can finish it 45 minutes or something, we might pick him. But no, he's got his uni exam, so he'll miss this week. So three pretty big outs for us. So we'll reward some form in the Mercury Cup and bring a couple of young guys up and keep exposing them to senior footy and see how we go.
How are you shaping up, mate, for the game and how do you approach it, I guess, given North Hobart's form this year?
Yeah, I think if you look at the past few games, North Hobart have been really competitive in their first halves. I think they were only down by 2 or 3 goals against North Lonnie. Last week they were competitive against Glenorchy for a half at KG5, which is tough to do. And was it at North Hobart? Sorry, North Hobart. Probably them as a young group showing that they can hold on for a half and then they sort of drop off because they are so young. But potentially getting Colin Garland back, as Bear spoke about before, they'll get Baxter Norton, who's been in the Allies, he's a good player, and some other younger players. They might be able to hold a game together for a bit longer, so that's going to be a bit of a challenge for us. Last time we played North Hobart, they actually beat us in the last quarter, so they'll probably take a bit of confidence in from that. So I sort of spoke about after the game on Saturday against the Tigers, we're really trying to focus on when we do get a lead or take a lead into half-time or 3/4 time that we put our foot down and try and go on with it, whereas I think against Launceston we're up by 60 points and only won by 5 goals in the end, and I guess being up by 5 or 6 goals against the Tigers, they kicked the last few goals in the last quarter and we win by 4 goals, so we really want to try and finish off games, and I guess that does help at the back end of the season when you are sort of needing percentage to get into the top 3, so these are the sort of things we're trying to work on. Sort of when we do get a lead, we try and go on with it and finish games off.
As a playing group, what's the best way to do that and obviously keep yourself switched on and not lapse and, as you say, let the other side back in?
Yeah, I think a little bit of game-based scenarios of training does help that. So we try and work on that sort of stuff at training. It is hard, but we do try and work on that at training with some map sim and stuff like that. But it's more just, I think, a mentality. Probably our senior players need to drive that out in the field. We do still have a lot of younger guys, like all clubs do. So I guess when you get a lead, you can sort of fall back and feel comfortable because we're not going to lose the game, but our mentality really needs to be, let's finish off this game and try and kick the last few goals of a quarter or a game. So that's probably where you can improve on that.
Mate, one of the more satisfying wins you've had for the since you've been at the club?
Yeah, it's up there. You know, we played really, really well for 3 quarters. Probably disappointed with the third quarter. We got, you know, beaten around the ball, and then we had some opportunity to take away momentum in that third quarter and just, you know, failed to execute. So, look, we reviewed the game really, really hard. Look, I think Taylor said after the game, if they had won, you know, some of that stuff would have been glossed over. So we made sure that we had a really good look at the game and learned some valuable lessons out of the game because we need to get better.
Is sour grapes from them with the umpiring, do you think?
I don't know. They reacted, did they?
Yeah, not happy.
Weren't they?
Nah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see it. Pretty hard though. A game like that was a big game, so yeah, I'd hate to be an umpire, but I didn't know they reacted like that. Anyway.
When you come off such a good win like that and then you're coming up against Glenorchy, is it easy to obviously park such a good victory and shift the attention onto another big game and another big rivalry?
Yeah, well, I think there's probably a lot of elements to that. Look, we've been up for a number of weeks and it's cold, it's wet. Guys are getting up at 7, there's frost in the ground, they go to work, they come to training. So I reckon the next month, 6 weeks, is a pretty hard period. As I said, we've been up for a long time and now we're hitting this hard period. So, look, we made sure that we enjoyed the win, because you always should. But we did get on to Glenorchy on Monday night. So, look, it's going to be a big challenge. I think we've had 5 wins, or we've played in 5 games this year where we've been under 3 goals and we've won 4. So, if that had been, we had been 1-4 instead of 4-1, are we looking at Clarence Footy Club differently? We might be. So, we've still got a long way to go. That game against Glenorchy out there at KG4, I think it was only 5 points in the end. So, we're expecting a really hard challenge. They've got a number of top-end talented players that can give us some real trouble. So, we're looking forward to the challenge. We need to back up our performance from last week.
No, you spoke pre-season about changing things to say you're peaking at the right time of the year. I guess you're playing so well now. How are you going to make sure you don't drop away, I suppose?
Oh, well, it's just about looking for improvements. You know, as I said, we reviewed the game extremely hard on the weekend, and we probably tinkered with a couple of things, and we're going to implement a couple of things over the next month and just see how that goes. But I think it's about constantly finding improvement. The other thing as well is we're getting some guys back. You know, like Fraser Turner comes back in a couple of weeks. Obviously, our 17 and 16 Mariners are back as well, and we've got some guys coming back from injury. So it's competition for spots as well. I think you know, everyone on the list knows that if their form's good enough, that we'll play them. So that competition for spots, I think, keeps the group hungry as well.
Does Speedy slot straight back in when he's right to go?
Yeah, he played this weekend. Yeah.
How long? You said half a game a couple of weeks ago. Has he got a time limit?
No, so he played. He's been training for 3.5 weeks, and he played 3 quarters on Saturday. In my opinion, and I might be a little bit, he's my brother-in-law and might be a little bit biased, but I think he's been the best small forward in the comp for probably the last 5 years. So that's plain. He's one of the best players.
Talk about those tight wins. What do you get as belief out of that, knowing that obviously when the game's on the line down the stretch that you can find a way to get across the line?
Yeah, look, I've said it a lot this year that I think this group's really tight. You know, at 3/4 time, am I having doubts that we're, you know, maybe a goal or 2 goals too far back against North Launceston? I probably am as a coaching group, and we're thinking, how can we change the game? But to the players' credit, we didn't actually change that much. They just believe that they can get the job done late in games, and they did on the weekend. So I think from all those wins, you gain confidence. But there's no doubt we'd like to be in front at 3/4 time, or would be like to put the game to bed before the last quarter, that's for sure.
Must give you hope though, knowing you were 25 points down and you found a way.
Yeah, we did. As I said, we probably had chances in the third quarter to kill momentum. We just missed them. So I think the game was still quite even, just that as North Launceston do, when they get up and going, they generally score. So when you have chances to kill that momentum, you need to do it there and then. We probably missed 3 or 4 opportunities to do that, and they score off the back of those, and all of a sudden it's 6-1 to, I think we kicked 2 goals in that quarter, and the deficit's out to 25 points, not only at 3/4 time. So yeah, look, that's something we need to learn from.
You talk about Glenorchy and their high end talent. Where do you see them right now as opposed to when you were preparing for the first time around when they were unbeaten? Has much changed?
No, I don't think it has. Look, we beat them by 5 points, then they went to Launceston a couple of weeks after, lost by a point. So they're still a very good team. They're a young team as well. I think the average age is around 21. So they've got some young players in there. They're going to peak and flow and drop and go everywhere. But I think their best is still really, really good. As I said, they've got a good mix of some young talent with good leg speed, and they've also got the top end talent that everyone knows about and we commented on.